All right, well, good afternoon. We appreciate you so much taking time out of your busy afternoon to be with us here today. And so I'd like to just kind of tell you a little bit about who we are at the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization. And then we'd like to open it up for any questions because we really do want to hear from you. This is your community and your voice really does matter. I do want to introduce you to a few of staff that is around the room. Sarah Crom, Kim Smith, and we have Laura Carter over here, Stephen Bostel, and then Abby Hemingway. All right. So what makes Brevard County's transportation system unique? Brevard is quintimodal in a sense that it has more transportation resources than any area its size in the United States. So we have a roadway component, which includes the cars, sidewalks, bicycle lanes, transit. We have a seaport, Port Canaveral. We have airports, including the Orlando-Melbourne International Airport. We have rail, the FEC Railroad, and then we have a spaceport. So what's the role of the Space Coast TPO? We're governed by federal law. Areas greater than 50,000 in population must have a TPO to spend federal transportation funds. So we are an organization that really looks at the big picture of transportation planning. We're there to assist in coordination with the DOT, all of our Brevard County municipalities, the various transportation agencies, but most importantly, our citizens. We're there to look at the big picture, and you need to know where the problems are to be able to do that. We have a traffic count program, a crash database, and we look at the trends in all different indicators across all modes of transportation. And then we summarize all this information in our annual State of the System report. So what does transportation planning look like on the local level? We have 19 elected officials on our governing board, including all 5 of the Board of County Commissioners. We also have several advisory committees that make recommendations to the governing board. We are responsible for developing a long-range transportation plan, which looks at a 20-year horizon. And this plan looks at the existing system and then looks at the future and where the potential new projects may be needed. We have a short-term plan, which is our transportation improvement program. And these are projects that have been funded in the DOT work program. They actually have funding attached to them. And it includes many projects such as widening projects, intersection improvements, bicycle pedestrian focused projects, as well as transit, space, and airport projects. And over on the back table, we have copies of our full transportation improvement program, and it is currently open for a 30-day comment period. If you would like to take one home, you can submit comments online, and we also have that document on our website as well. So how does the Space Coast TPO board operate and function? Our governing board has direct authority over our plans and our programs. The board adopts an annual project priority list each year, and then that list is turned over to the Florida Department of Transportation to fund the projects with state and federal funding. And we have copies of our draft priority list also on the back table as well, if you would like to look at our complete listing of projects. So I think the transportation planning takeaways, I think most citizens really do not realize how expensive transportation projects really are. They can cost millions and millions of dollars. How long it takes to implement these major improvements, a lot of the major roadway projects, capacity projects can take 20+ years to implement. There is a process also to identify and agree upon and fund these projects and programs. Providing transportation in the U.S. involves federal, state, and local governments. And then the decision-making process begins with our TPO board of elected officials. But I'd also like to say it really does begin with you, our citizens, because it starts from the ground up, and that's very important. So now that I've talked a little bit about who we are, I want to dig into just a few of the projects. We actually have 50 projects on our priority list on that back table, but I only want to talk about just a handful. And then when we open it up to questions, if you have a specific project you'd like to talk about, we can get into it then. This particular project is the proposed I-95 North Interchange at Ellis Road and the extension and widening of Ellis. This project has been a top priority for the TPO and Brevard County for many years. The purpose of the new interchange is to provide a direct connection from I-95 to the Orlando-Melbourne International Airport. Having a new interchange at this location will assist in reducing the near-term and future traffic demands on New Haven and O'Galley. And I am specifically talking about the new interchange here at I-95, and then this is Ellis Road going over to Wickham. It's anticipated that the construction of the new interchange will begin in August of this year, and it should have probably a 2-year construction schedule. In addition to the new interchange at I-95, Ellis Road will be widened to 4 lanes all the way to Wickham. And this will improve mobility for people and goods. Ellis Road widening is in the design phase by Brevard County. And the right-of-way phase is programmed over several years between fiscal year 20 all the way to fiscal year 2024. Construction is unfunded at this time. To the west of I-95, the county will also be moving to construction later this year on phase 2 of the Parkway, which is this section right here. And that would be from US 192 all the way up to the I-95 interchange at Ellis Road. The phase 1 of the Parkway from the Palm Bay city limits up to 192 has been opened, and so that cars can drive on that road currently. This will make a direct connection from Malabar Road in the city of Palm Bay north to the new interchange at Ellis Road. So the next project is the future widening of the beach line. The Florida Turnpike Enterprise owns the beach line from State Road 520 to Industry Road. They're in the process of doing a project development and environment study, which is really the very large environmental study. On the FDOT-owned portion from Industry Road to the Port Canaveral Interchange, design is currently underway and approaching 30% plans. There's also a multi-use trail that is being designed as part of the project from the port at State Road 401 all the way to US 1 on the north side of the road. So that will be an amenity that will definitely be enjoyed by many Brevard County citizens and visitors as well. Right-of-way funding is in fiscal year 2024. But until the design phase gets a little further along, say around 60% design, the DOT does not know the exact right-of-way impacts currently. But the DOT is planning a public meeting in the spring of fiscal year 2019, or in the spring of next year, there will be a public meeting. So another project I want to talk about is intersection improvement at US 192 and Hollywood and Evans. Intersection improvements can provide a lot of bang for the buck. Adding turn lanes and extending lanes can add significant capacity to intersections without having to widen the road. You can buy some time by widening an intersection. So this is a very important project. There is a lack of adequate lanes on Hollywood, contributing to delays along the main line of US 192. So DOT is currently in the design phase. In fact, there is a public meeting coming up in a week or two. And then the right-of-way acquisition is funded in fiscal year 2020. But we still need construction funding. So this project is not funded for construction currently. So then I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about a different kind of project that we're involved in. and that's A1A pedestrian safety in Brevard County. Parts of the beachside highway can be very hazardous to bicyclists and pedestrians. We routinely get calls about speed reduction, lack of crosswalks along A1A, and the DOT gets a lot of calls as well. On A1A from 5th Avenue to the Pineda Causeway, various bicycle and pedestrian improvements have been implemented along with an FDOT resurfacing project. But unfortunately, they were not able to get all of the improvements implemented that we did want. There's missing sections of sidewalk due to right-of-way that's going to be needed. And so the TPO will continue to work with the department and our municipalities to try and get those sidewalk gaps filled in. Some of the improvements that they did put in on that section of A1A is crosswalks and pedestrian refuges. Rectangular rapid flashing beacons will also be installed as a safety measure when you enter the crosswalk. There's also a safety project for 11 additional mid-block crossings from 5th Avenue to O'Galley. Construction funds will be available in July of next year, and these crosswalks will also have the flashing beacons as well. Moving north, sidewalks on both the east and west side of A1A have been constructed throughout the one-way pairs in Cocoa Beach. The DOT has various pedestrian studies underway in the Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral area to see where pedestrian crossings or other improvements may be warranted. And then one of the projects that came out of the original A1A corridor study several years back is to reconstruct a section of A1A from the North Atlantic intersection to George King Boulevard in Cape Canaveral. So this is a project that we have on our priority list that we have identified. The purpose of the project is really to make the corridor safer for bicyclists and pedestrians by widening the sidewalks, installing crosswalks, and to install some medians in specific certain locations within that 5-lane section. High speed is another concern for the folks in the city of Cape Canaveral. Living on the, as you're leaving the beach line and entering the city, a lot of folks are really, they tend to be speeding and they don't realize that you've just now entered Cape Canaveral. So the community wants folks to have a sense of arrival when they come into Cape Canaveral, and changing the design of that road will help in the traffic calming and hopefully will assist in that. The design is programmed in fiscal year 2019 for that particular project. We do not have right-of-way or construction funding. The only right-of-way that would be needed is for drainage ponds, because you would be implementing the curb and gutter. There would not necessarily be any businesses or taken along that corridor. Having the infrastructure along a roadway to support the pedestrian safety is very important, but behavior is also important. We have a lot of speeders, we have a lot of distracted drivers, so we all have personal responsibility, whether you're a pedestrian or a motorist. And so we do have a very robust bike ped education and safety program. And we're working hard to try and bring down the serious injury and fatality numbers as much as we can. But we have a lot more work to do, not only just on A1A, but on other areas in Brevard County. And I just wanted to mention corridor planning studies. This is just another area that the TPO is busy involved in. There are times when it is necessary to really look at certain corridors that are in need of improvement. We were contacted by various municipalities to kind of look at specific roadways, and these are some of the corridor studies that the DOT and the TPO is involved in. But you need to look at existing conditions, and then you need to identify the problems, and then try to determine what is the solution. Is it affordable? Is it feasible? And is it acceptable to the community? And this is the first step in identifying the improvements. And so we had these corridor studies either underway or coming up in the very near future. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about before Sarah comes up is our Complete Streets program. Complete Streets are streets for everyone. They are designed and operated to enable safe access for all users, and that includes bicyclists and pedestrians, motorists and transit riders. And it's people of all ages and all abilities. So Complete Streets make it easier to cross the street, walk to shops, bike to work, or just ride your bicycle to a shop on the weekend. And so these are some of the projects that the TPO has assisted in funding. The four on the top, North Atlantic, Peachtree, Minutemen, and Florida Avenue, have all been constructed. And if you have went around in this area, you can see how it has really changed the look. It has brought in a lot of economic development in a lot of these areas. And so this is definitely an asset to the community. So it's one of the things that we have heard from our citizens is that there are times when you have to widen a road, but then there are times when you need to look at other things. And Complete Streets is another one of those areas that we've really been focusing on lately. And then Hickory Street will be going under construction later this year. I think they've already awarded the contract. And then our two new projects is Pineapple Avenue and Front Street in the city of Melbourne. And so I'm going to let Sarah come up and just talk a few minutes about our trails and our bike ped master plan.
So, good evening. My name is Sarah Crom. I'm the multimodal program specialist for the Space Coast TPO. So as such, I do our bicycle, pedestrian, and trail planning. So a lot of what I do as far as planning comes out of our bicycle pedestrian master plan, which we have officially kicked off an update to. Excuse me. We had an internal staff meeting kick off already, and we're going to be meeting with stakeholders very shortly here. And within basically over the course of the next 16 months, we're going to be looking at what are the current conditions of bicycle pedestrian facilities out there, what are the cities and other municipalities looking for as far as, and feel like, are there needs in their community, and what are also our public's perceptions of what their bicycle pedestrian trail needs are out in our community. So over the next 16 months, we'll be going to that update. It'll be completed next fall, fall 2019, with 6 public workshops planned for winter 2019. They'll be regional, so you won't have to, someone in Palm Bay doesn't have to drive all the way up to Titusville in order to put in their 2 pieces about the master plan update. So I wanted to, part of our plan is our showcase trails, so I wanted to kind of highlight some of the activity that's happening on our showcase trail network, because there's been a lot of stuff happening with trails lately. So I just wanted to highlight 3 of our showcase trails. One of them is Brevard Zoo Trail. It's a very popular trail right here in Vieira. Phase 1 was completed in April 2014. It is 1.1 miles of boardwalk. It's completely off system. It's a great place to take any and all users of any and all abilities. Currently, Phase 2 is under construction. If you drive down Pineda over by 95, you can actually see them beginning to install the boardwalk pilings and such, and Brevard County has a sign out there. So that'll be 1.93 additional miles of mixed boardwalk and asphalt. All right. The Florida East Central Regional Rail Trail is a project that's been going on for over 20 years, and we have finally completed it this past winter. On February 23rd, we held a ribbon cutting for the last 12.4 miles that tied the city of Titusville into Volusia County. So you can now go from downtown Titusville all the way to Volusia County on a multi-use 12-foot trail. We also had a community cycle fun day where we were able to get some of over 300 bicyclists on the trail and begin using it and start checking it out and enjoying it. Volusia County will be tying into that section of trail this fall, and basically that will connect us into further pieces of the coast-to-coast trail and the St. Johns River to Sea Loop. So it's really building this whole state regional network, and so it's a very important piece. Another very important piece is the Space Coast Trail. It is currently under project development and environmental. They are going to be having a public meeting in December, around that time frame, and that'll pretty much finalize this project development phase. It's a very unique project in that it's going into the Maryland National Wildlife Refuge and Canaveral National Seashore. So there's a lot of environmental constraints, as well as also, if you're unaware, that property is owned by NASA. So you're also having to look at federal guidelines and such from NASA as well. So it's been a very exciting project to follow, and hopefully what will come out of it is we'll have a great trail alignment to finalize this section of regional trails, where that will complete our coast-to-coast trail, which the coast-to-coast is supposed to go from the Atlantic Ocean all the way over to the Gulf of Mexico and St. Pete. And then it will also complete our section of the St. John's River to Sea Loop, the coast-to-coast won't be complete until when this is done, hopefully. And the St. John's River to Sea Loop, once complete, will go through 5 counties all the way up to Putnam, through St. Augustine, back down through Volusia. So very exciting regional trail projects. Thank you.
All right, so we have just a few slides that we just wanted to ask questions about your experiences using the transportation system, because your input is very important, and we wanted to get your reactions on some of these questions, and then after that we'll open it up to questions on lots of different subjects that you may have. And so, what is your primary mode of transportation? Do you drive your own vehicle, ride in a vehicle with others, walk, bicycle, transit, or ride service? Why don't we see a show of hands for drive my own vehicle? Okay. Yeah, Kim's going to do it.
Get 11, 5, 12. Okay.
Okay. And who rides in a vehicle with others? Okay.
You can do multiples, right?
That's true. That's true. Well,
12? I got 6.
okay. All right. And who walks? What's your? I'm talking about your primary mode of transportation.
Oh.
Primary mode of transportation.
I'm number A. I didn't have my hand up.
What do you do, sir?
Number A.
Oh, drive my own vehicle. Okay. All right. Bicycle. Ginger, absolutely.
That's not the...
That's one.
I mean, I bicycle through town a lot, and I walk a lot, but
Primary
when you
is a
say
car.
primary, right.
Yeah.
Depends on what I'm doing.
So how do you distribute that? If you
So-
do 15 minutes of driving, but I do a half-hour bicycle ride?
Okay, well,
So
But
Georgina,
I'm
could we
using
do
one
it
for work.
again afterwards and get, like we kind of did for the president when we did before, go back and let you answer all of the ones that you use, run through in a second?
okay.
Yes.
Do primary, and then you can have a second
Yeah.
mode of.
All right, transit, okay, we have one transit. And then ride service, Uber, Lyft, taxi. Okay, all right. So what are the biggest challenges you encounter when you drive or ride with others? Distracted driving, aggressive driving, high speeds, or congestion, or some other one? I mean, I think, you guys, do we want to do a show of hands, or we just let people
Yeah,
give?
let's do a show of hands.
Okay, show of hands for distracted driving. All right.
Distracted driving.
That's a big one, right? What about aggressive driving? That's another big one. All right. How about high speeds? It's another big one. And then congestion. Okay. All right. What are the biggest challenges as a pedestrian in Brevard County? Who would say safe access to crosswalks? Okay. That's a big one. Lack of sidewalks?
Can you add to that bike paths or combined multimodal? Because
Yes. Okay, we'll add that one. Motorist behavior. Is that a challenge? All right, and then lack of connectivity. Okay. All right. So what are the biggest challenges as a bicyclist in Brevard County that you see? Lack of bicycle lanes? Okay.
Safe ones or just bicycle lanes?
Yeah. Well,
Bike lanes aren't safe.
but that's why Ginger rides in the road. Lack of knowledge about traffic laws. Do you think that's a problem?
Yes.
Okay. And then motorist behavior.
How about uneducated motorist? Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
That all qualifies.
They're uneducated.
Okay, and what are the concerns regarding Space Coast area transit services? Long wait times, do you see a problem with that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Not enough stops, we've talked about that, okay, there's 2. Lack of shelters, we see that a lot. Yeah, that is, and then lack of connectivity,
Yes.
okay.
There's another, lack of service and dialogue.
Yes, that's right, which is something that she has brought up to us on the weekends specifically.
I live in Melbourne Beach, they're on the buses.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah, that's a problem. All right, do you feel that Brevard County has adequate ADA features, Americans with Disability features? Truncated domes, do you see enough of those? What's that?
Just tactical warning.
Yes.
That might be a more common name for them.
Audible signals, so when you press a signal, you can hear the chirping, or they can actually tell you, when to walk. And then ramps. You have ADA ramps for wheelchairs. All
How
right.
about connectivity?
And connectivity, yeah. That's a good point, yeah.
I've seen on my rides.
Right.
Can't get places.
And so I think all of these things really, it kind of makes you think that, we live in Florida, we have some of the best roads in the nation compared to some of the other states, but we still have a lot of challenges. And, the way our roads was designed, it really was not designed for bicyclists and pedestrians unless it's a brand-new road. And so what the challenge is that when you have to go in and retrofit these very old, antiquated roads, and sometimes it can be expensive, it takes time. There are times when we have to wait for the DOT or one of the local municipalities to actually make upgrades, or, they're resurfacing it, and then you can add these additional improvements. So it is a challenge, and it is something that we are continuing to work with the county and the municipalities, as well as DOT. And we're going to, it's very important, and we're going to continue that. So I think at this point, I'd just like to open it up for questions. If you have a specific area that you want to talk about that we haven't covered. Yes, Abby?
We have a wireless mic, but it's a little
It's
sensitive.
acting up a little bit.
But if any of these questions sparked anything that you'd like to talk about, we just ask that you limit it to about 3 minutes so that everyone gets fair input.
Sure.
We'll also have learning stations at the end where if you want to talk more in depth with either Georgiana or one of the staff members, you're free to do that as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Yes, sir.
Sort of a pet peeve. They just redid the intersection at US 1 and Michigan and Cocoa, and they left out 50 feet of sidewalk. And
Okay.
so if you're riding a bike on the south side of Michigan, you get to the railroad track and the sidewalk disappears, and you're in the dirt to get to US 1. I mean, it's just like 50 feet, and then just sidewalk goes away.
So it's on Michigan?
It's
from
on
the
Michigan.
railroad crossing?
Between the railroad to US 1
So
on the
it's
south side of Michigan.
eastbound, sounds like.
Okay.
Eastbound Michigan.
Yeah, there's no sidewalk.
That's probably likely.
Yeah, there's no sidewalk on the north side, only on the south side.
The railroad, that's a private entity. They
Yep.
own the railroads along all of Brevard County, all up and down the east
There's
coast.
sidewalk to the one side.
There is, and that was probably pre-existing. Whenever they do any kind of improvements, unless it's already there, FEC does not authorize or approve any additional lanes, pedestrian crossings, or anything. I can tell you with the All Board Florida, yeah, and Brightline, that I'm sure all of you have probably heard about coming through. When they make improvements to the crossings, one of the things they are doing in the county and all the municipalities have asked for is to add pedestrian crossings at all of the crossings that we have. Those that don't have it now would have it in the future. That's still being worked out. We're working with them as best we can. But it's difficult with a private entity to force them to allow us to have additional crossings. In fact, I can tell you that there are no additional crossings allowed anywhere. You can take one out, but we cannot add anything additional.
The crossing's there. It's
But you're saying-
from the railroad to US 1.
Right, and they stopped it because they weren't able to cross the railroad, because the
No.
railroad owns that.
But the crossing across the railroad is there.
Oh, you're saying the railroad, you can cross the railroad, but you
Railroad.
cannot get to US 1.
But you can't get to US 1.
That is interesting.
We recorded it, we'll record your comments and we'll sort of.
I'm actually going to drive that way tonight. I'll take a
Yeah,
peek
it's
at what
right by
you're
the,
looking at.
there's a little
There's a,
convenience
I was gonna
store
say, gas
there, and
station or
between the
something on the south
convenience
side.
store and the railroad is where it's missing. You can cross the railroad. That's there.
Abby, would you hand me one of my priority lists?
Could-
Can that possibly be an easement issue?
I was gonna say,
It's
probably
possible.
right away,
It's
they would have
possible.
had to take the whole property.
Because
It's on the other side.
Ed has been really good about trying to make sure that he's got the connections there. Well, we have a sidewalk project at several different locations within the area to fill in small gaps,
it's-
but it's not that one,
And
I
it's
don't
how
think.
it's how you get to the community college,
Sure.
the YMCA. I live in
Absolutely.
High
So
Point,
we'll
it's
look
annoying.
into that and see what the issue is. There's most likely a reason for it. We just need to determine what it is. All right? Yes, ma'am?
I have a question regarding the corridor studies, the FDOT studies. Is there any particular reason that you know of why Clear Lake Road was not included in that FDOT study of the 4 that you have listed here?
Those four studies went to the department basically about 2 years ago, maybe about a year and a half ago. And so they finished phase 1, and now they're going into phase 2 where they're doing concept development. I think you're talking about Clear Lake Road from basically Michigan all the way to Dixon, that section that's,
Well,
Or-
Dixon or even over to, all the way south to Lake,
yes.
to Lake Drive.
We did reach out, I think we reached out to Ed, and we did ask him to send in an application. It is something that I think that we need to look at, but we need to get it on our priority list and make an official request.
Okay,
But we haven't received an application
okay.
to kind of move forward with it.
So that's
But
what
it
you're waiting
it
for.
is something that is on our radar if we definitely think that particular section needs looked at. It's something that Laura personally wants to look at because
Well,
it's
I knew you did a
prime.
traffic study on
Yeah.
it, and there was a high,
Yes.
high accident rate and,
So we'll
incident rate.
we'll reach out to Ed again. And I think if we can get it on the priority list and then ask them to do the study, I think they absolutely would. I think the DOT would be willing to do it because we could easily prove that there is a
Because
need
talking
there.
about safety issues, like with A1A, you have the same
Sure.
safety issues on Clear
Yeah.
Lake.
Yep.
Lack of designated crosswalks, So we have the same issues there. that,
Yes,
they're experiencing
absolutely.
over there.
Okay, yes, I know you've brought that up before, and we'll look at that. We'll talk to
Okay.
Ed. Okay?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am?
When we talk about alternative transportation, have you guys looked at or considered autonomous vehicles or electric vehicles, whether it's for your SCAT buses or for personal use?
I think I'm going to let Stephen answer that question.
I was looking for at the sidewalk area.
She asked about autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles, if we've looked at that for alternative transportation.
Yes, we're actually looking at having that be a large part of our next long-range plan update. We've been coordinating closely with the Florida Department of Transportation and looking at a lot of what other areas around the country have been doing in preparation for it, because it is coming a lot faster than we all anticipated. And so a lot of it's being driven by private industry, which moves a lot faster than government does. But the best advice we've been given is to continue to build our communications network along our roadways, fiber optic cable, and tell us the things that some assets we already have out there, like the intelligent transportation system. So we do have a master plan for that, and so as long as we continue to follow that plan, we should be in a good position for when they do come online.
Do you know if that will include charging stations for electric vehicles or anything like that? Is
That-
that a consideration?
So when we do our next ITS master plan update, that's probably something we'll take a look at as well. We're going to work on stuff on that next year, but a lot of that comes down to the local agencies to decide where they're going to go. And we've been throwing around the idea of having a workshop with the different municipalities like we did for Complete Streets, and because it is going to be something that we all need to take a closer look at as an entire region.
Yeah. Do you spend any time in Palm Bay? The last time I was down there, Tesla has like a 10-bay charging station there in front of Hammock Landings. It actually says Tesla on the side of it. I've never seen anything like that. So
West Melbourne.
Yeah, West Melbourne, yeah.
Great question. Yes, it's coming, and transportation's going to look a lot different in the very near future. It may be
Hotels
happening.
are starting to put in charging stations for electric cars.
Yes,
And
yes.
then there's some at the O'Galley Library on Pineapple.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Is this a good time for me to bring forth my consideration?
Absolutely.
What I'm interested in?
Sure.
Can I just stand here?
Sure.
My name is George Rosenfield. I live in Suntree. I'm an environmental scientist. You can't just build a road and forget about it. I addressed your advisory committee meeting on March 5th and the TPO governing board on March 8th. I stated at that time my objection to the development of the 25-acre North Merritt Island site with 40-plus homes, all in septic tanks. I also addressed the county commission on the same subject. Now with the 5-month moratorium on septic tanks, except for past approvals and higher efficient units, I hesitate to think of the lesser efficient ones being installed there, adding more pollution to our beloved Indian River Lagoon. I also mentioned the Southeast Expressway, and it's on the board here. And this past years of planning and present consideration of 4-laning for future impact of additional traffic. Of course, it opens the Platt family lands for development, similar to the Doodle lands. But the Doodle lands have the Brevard County sewage treatment plant and the wetlands included in their property. Even when I lived in Brevard County from January 57 to June of 1965, my home in Sea Park was connected to a sewer treatment plant, together with South Patrick Shores. At the TPO Transportation Planning Organization meetings that I attended, I gave a copy of economics professor Random Holcomb, Florida State University, a Florida economist, that taxes received from development and housing do not pay for county services rendered to the community, and similarly to the county commission. And I gave a copy to Mr. Lett. I'll already given it to him. So before you proceed much further, I said to the county commission, reinstate the impact fees and at a higher level than before. Also establish a sewer treatment plant and the adjacent wetlands, and set adequate sewer pipes and water lines. Do not even consider the newer, more efficient septic tank system, which only removes 65% of pollutants. Thank you. You can't just build a road and walk away from it. It's going to have an effect on everything afterwards, on the community, on the environment, on the ecology. That's what I'm concerned about.
All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. And we've spoken, and Mr. Rosenberg knows that we We do not approve development. That's not our role here at the TPO. That's for the county or other municipalities to do, but there is a direct connection between the environment and
But it
transportation.
opens up the land.
And we have to link those two. We have extensive project development and environment studies. Lots of resource agencies are involved in the planning of projects, so it is extremely important, and we do recognize that. So thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
You said that the FDOT is approaching 30% on their,
For the beach line?
Beach line, yes. And I have spoken with you before, and I thought that it was going to be July of this year, but it's going to be spring of 2019, correct?
Yes. I actually spoke with the DOT project manager this morning.
Okay.
Because there is a new project manager. They have switched around, they've traded off project managers, and his name is Talib Shams, and the project has been delayed a little bit, and so they are approaching 30% design. I asked him about right-of-way impacts and if they knew where the right-of-way impacts would be, and he assured me that they do not. Typically, they have to get more closer to 60% design plans before they know the exact impacts of how, what retention is going to be needed and what right-of-way would be needed for a roadway. And so the public meeting is next year, and so it has been pushed back. The right-of-way funding is out in 2024, and even, there is construction money in the out years of the cost feasible plan, but it's not in the 5-year work program, so it's kind of out there a little bit. So I can certainly, if you give me your number, I can give you the name to the new DOT project manager so you can keep in touch with him as well. But that's the latest status.
Okay, I'll email you.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I know we've talked. Great.
Yeah. Well, is the enterprise, the Turnpike Enterprise, are they still thinking about the 2 added lanes, or is that all?
They are considering 8-laning their section. That is why they actually went and redid, instead of moving into design, which is what the DOT portion is, they're looking at the potential for 8-laning. And so they had to back up a little bit. It may not be feasible, but that's what they're looking at right now, from 520 to Industry. So that's on the west end of the beach line.
And how much, do you have any idea, adding the recreational trail, that will be on the north side?
It'll be on the north side.
And how much land is that? Do you have any idea?
I really do not know.
I mean, I looked at all the plans. But
It would be a required 4 to 8 foot grass buffer with a 12-foot multi-use trail. Is basically there, and in fact, the speeds, there's probably the standard is even further than 4 feet. So it'd probably be about an 8-foot buffer, and then you'd have an additional 12 feet that would actually be the trail. And that's just going off of what the standards are and probably the funding source that they're most likely going to pursue for building that.
Well, and there's going to be a wall up
Yeah.
to separate them, so, as far as the design of the trail and how it interacts with the road, I don't know. So.
And that's unique because this is going to be the first trail on the limited access roadway.
Yes.
And so we don't know.
Okay.
If you look at a different causeway, such as the Brewer Causeway, that has an 8-foot grass buffer and then a 12-foot. But you're looking at much lower speeds.
Yeah, this is a high-speed facility, as Sarah said, limited access, so there needs to be safety precautions there.
And I guess they're going to build another bridge.
All the bridges are going to be replaced except for the new one, over the Indian River, the newest bridge, south side. All the bridges are going to be replaced, yes.
What bridges are we talking about?
all of them from,
Crossing the Indian River Lagoon?
On 528.
on 528.
New one?
Banana River,
Pardon?
the
Yes,
Banana River and
Yep.
Sykes Creek.
right,
What,
yes.
and, well, 528, near 528?
I'm sorry,
I
sir.
mean, near 520? That crosses Banana River.
No, we're talking about the beach line, the beach line.
All right, the beach line is
Yes.
528.
Yes. The
Well, that
beach
already
line,
crosses.
when they widen the beach line, they're going to replace all of the older bridges. All of the bridges are going to be replaced.
On the beach line?
Yes.
Are
And this
they
is,
going to put in the bridge on supports and do away with the causeway?
that is going to be, that is a conversation that is being discussed internally on one of them. That is a conversation that's being discussed on how to treat one of the bridges over the Banana River. So at this time, we're working with the DOT and the port folks to see how all of that is going to look. But again, it's in the very early stages of this design.
Well, that was an alternative for the railroad from the port, was to parallel the 528. And they were talking about the possibility of going through Patrick Air Force Base missile range and on through the Space Center and going
Right.
across near a bridge up there, up north, that's already there, rather than go across 528 and
That's
into
true.
the housing development that's on the west shore. But if you put in another bridge, even and start building more causeways, you're going to dam up the lagoon more than it already is.
These are, me and Georgiana have actually sat down with the Indian River National Estuary Program, as well as also Virginia Marker, who runs the Natural Resources Department for Brevard County. And these are conversations that we're having and we're well aware of while going forward in transportation planning. So we're keyed in. Once again, projects are very, 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 very long-winded, and there is the possibility of changing the shape of our transportation system over the lagoon, but we're looking at a very long time frame. So we're keyed in. We're working with the right
we're working
people.
with them. We're looking.
How many
yes.
years are you looking at, though, when you say very long time frame? 10, 15, 20? I mean, do you have any concept?
Well, I mean, specifically that project, the 528 project, when was to right-of-way?
Right-of-way's in 2024. We just, the construction funding, it would probably
Starting
be...
with the causeways being rebuilt and...
Well, I mean, that gets into a whole tricky other situation of dealing with sea level rise and resiliency and basically justifying, that not from all perspectives. And so, those type of timeframes, we're not looking at inundation until 2100, so it's really how fast is the money going to drop, or elected officials going to want to work to meet a 2100 timeframe.
Georgiana, we have time
Yes.
for about one more question before
Yes.
we can break out.
Okay, and then we can break out and you can go to different stations. So do we have any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. This is probably our biggest crowd, and so we're so excited.
Georgiana, do you want to mention the different stations that we have in case?
Yes, so Kim is over here, and she does bike ped safety, and we have a public involvement section here, and Sarah does everything trails and bicycle pedestrian planning. And then if you would like to see how to build a road and all the things that you take into account, how much money it costs and what you can, all the factors you need to consider, then Laura has a workstation over here. So, and I'm
I
here.
got the goodies though, I got fruit on them.
Listen to that. You can let her do that.